Brilliant.
I will wear anything anybody sends me, right? So thanks, HubSpot.
So send Tony anything you would like him to wear.
I'm a bit short on clothes at the moment.
If anyone sends him a tutu, I'll be over the moon. He'll wear it. I'll make him.
Welcome to Under the Hood.
Welcome. It's another year and another Under the Hood. Yes, coming to you from somewhere else. My name's Tony Eads, Sorted Stone, and with me, of course, is Gabe McCarthy. Where are we?
Where are we? I'm not even that sure. I think it might be some sort of zoo from the 1970s. I'm not sure.
I'm kind of feeling the zoo theme here, I think.
No, but we are actually at the Bella Vista Hotel, and we want to give a huge shout out and thanks to Hills Podcast and a video studio at the Bella Vista Hotel for having us in this fabulous location. And in 2023, starting such a new, fresh year with such great quality equipment. Tony, how are you feeling about the year so far?
Oh, I'm feeling super excited. 2023's got that feeling, I think, about it. I don't know if anybody else listening in or watching in, because this is now a vidcast for those that like to watch, and also a podcast for those that like to listen.
ASMR. I love me some of that.
But it is. I'm excited. You excited?
I'm very excited. You know what? I got the same vibe, the same feeling. You know, I think it's Marbo. It's the vibe.
It could be what's in the coffee here at Bella Vista. I think it could be that.
For 2023, I think this is the year, and it feels good. It feels good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot happening in technology. Before we get into today's episode, for those that haven't played around with it, I think there's something like over 1 million people in the last 5 days that had to play with ChatGPT. So if you get absorbed into that new technology that was out last November, starting to be a game changer for this year.
If you can use it, if it doesn't crash on you.
Well, that's it. I think it was you that crashed it, was it?
Yeah.
Rumors out.
I had 20 tabs open at once searching for how to write up this podcast. Yes.
Talking of this podcast, right, we have a fantastic topic. And in fact, every week we're going to have a topic, but there are some new rules, Gabe.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
They are.
Folks have written in from last year and said, we want some rules and regulations on your Under the Hood this year. So 15 minutes is all we're allowed. We're going to start the clock in a minute. 15 minutes will be our time limit on the topic, and a little timer will go off, which will motivate you or me to do something.
Ooh, would it be something to do with this little horn right here, Tony?
Yes, that's the horn of the end type of thing, which means it's the end of the podcast. So we're going to keep it to 15 minutes, keep it strong and focused.
And whoever grabs that horn first is the winner, by the way. Just FYI, those are the rules.
So that's pretty much the rules. It's a very simple game, really, isn't it?
It is a pretty simple game, yes.
So our topic for our first ever episode for this year is why you don't need a website in 2023. I am going to start the timer, and our 15 minutes starts now. Gabe, why don't you need a website?
Man, I feel like you're trying to be a real game changer here with such a statement as that, Tony. But I see where you're coming from. Look, in the old days, remember websites were back in the 90s or maybe the late 80s were just basically a brochure or a pamphlet for your business, right?
And some still are, by the way.
Some still are. Some people still have that mindset.
Haven't moved from the 80s or 90s.
No, there's some real retro sites out there. Quite a few, actually. 2 billion websites that currently exist?
Well, that's an interesting stat. 2 billion websites currently on the internet, and only 400 million of them are active. So people have been, it's almost like in space, where all that garbage is floating around up there. It's the same on the internet. There's all this garbage floating around out there. So your website is competing against 80% of websites that aren't even active or relevant anymore. So you've really got to cut through.
What we need? We need, like we have for our emails, a junk box for the internet.
for the website. Yeah, wouldn't that be great if you find a website that's terrible, you just put it in the junk box
drag and drop
for everybody else.
But should we? Here's the question, though, Tony. Like now that we are in the 2020s, obviously SEO was such a big pool for sites like Google for basically dictating what your website should do, how it should get you like more visitors and therefore more business. Now it's all about user experience.
Yes, 100%.
Should we even be calling them websites?
Well, that's an interesting question because I think I'd love to come up with a different name, and maybe we can launch it today because websites been around since the 1890s, 80s and 90s.
That's a long time. Was that back when you were a lad?
That's right. Just after I was born. But something like web portal or web web destination or digital storefront. I think you like that one.
Did you ask ChatGPT that?
I might have come up with that.
I like the digital storefront, by the way. That's a good one. That's a good
I like
one.
this one as well. Cyberspace location. That kind of sounds a bit futuristic, doesn't it?
Cyberspace location.
Why don't you check out my cyberspace location?
Isn't that something Elon Musk is developing right now?
Yeah, along with Twitter, I think. Virtual store is another one. Obviously, if you're an e-commerce, selling stuff online. I think everybody should think about selling stuff online in 2023 because it's so easy, right? Could be service-related products. Doesn't have to be physical products.
No, not at all. And I believe there's something I'm looking at a stat here of 20 million sites that are e-commerce based websites.
Yeah.
That's a lot of selling that's happening online. And obviously Amazon and other big businesses like that are really reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the other thing as well is like one of the biggest mistakes I think a lot of websites make is they're very slow loading. There's something like over 80% of people that expect a website to load within 3 seconds.
That's
right.
mental,
1, 2, 3, that's it. And if it's not up, they're on to the next one.
I kind of get that though. Look, I had an experience just yesterday where we're searching preschools, my wife and I, for our future child. And I went onto a website that was like basically, a hub where you could put in your postcode and find the most local preschool. Yeah, great idea and concept. Put it in, did not work.
Didn't work? Where did you end up?
Well, I'm on the south coast of New South Wales. It came up with Melbourne. So that was a bad user experience and more loaded, but it took probably about 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah,
and
to get the wrong answer.
Exactly. And perfect to your use case. I just jumped off. I was like, nah, I'll do it later. Can't be bothered. I got other things better to do.
Well, that kind of leads us on to the topic, right? Why you don't need a website as such. So we've already agreed that website, as in the 1980s, 1990s kind of brochure online website, is out for sure. I think we all agree with that. But let me pose this question to you. What if you didn't even have a website? You just focused your investment, your attention on social media. I mean, our social media platforms are built for engagement. And you said, number one, a website needs to be engaging. Social media platforms are.
They are indeed, although you are sort of at the mercy of the platform itself, right? And that is ultimately like, look, I'm not dissing anybody who say, builds a website for like their business to sell through Facebook or to sell through LinkedIn or wherever it might be. Even like eBay-based websites are great. They're built for purpose. But then again, you have to think, all right, what is my audience really looking for and what would benefit me the most? I think it's mindset, right? We need to change because people, I think, are stuck in the way of thinking that social is social. I do that for, other particular reasons, not for my business. And then I have a website for my business where I think to your point, the two can work in tandem correctly if done and set up well. But here's where I think the most disparate thing is that a lot of people build a website completely separate to their database, and therefore they lose so much of that personalized experience that they can build from, say, for example, from the shirt you're wearing right now. If you can't see this if you're listening on podcast, but it's a HubSpot shirt, and HubSpot brilliant.
I will wear anything anybody sends me, right? So thanks, HubSpot.
So send Tony anything you would like him to wear.
I'm a bit short on clothes at the moment.
If anyone sends him a tutu, I'll be over the moon. He'll wear it. I'll make him. But no, look, to that point, like HubSpot CRM is a database, right? And HubSpot now has built out the CMS to be super, super easy to use to build your website on. And I don't think you could even technically call it a website in a sense that like I was saying, the mentality around changing the build to be more on the user experience. If I say, Google in something, a question I have, I land on the page, I want that answer catered to me as that person. Like that example I just told you about with the postcode, right? I want to have it exclusively to me and to tell me exactly as the person I am, what the answer is to my pain point or goal. And therefore to give me the right call to action, C2A or CTA, to click through and give me what I want. And HubSpot as a CMS can help you do that because HubSpot CMS is built around your CRM, your database. Therefore, you can actually pull in data for people who are visiting your website from the data that already exists and give them that personalized experience. And a tool I should probably talk to a little bit on that is tools like smart content that could be built into CTAs where you build it in HubSpot. You set certain parameters in the tool of HubSpot CMS. And basically, if I belong in, say, a list that's all of soon-to-be dads, for example, I might then, if I visit that website, have that CTA then populate because I'm in that list with the correct kind of language or visual or both or CTA, whatever it might be, that really speaks to me, and therefore I'm more inclined to click it, right? Because I'm like, oh, that speaks to me. That's exactly what I'm after. I'll click on that.
Yeah, well, that's that personalized thing you were talking about, because all what you've just said then you can't do in social.
Exactly.
You know, and I think what it comes back to as well, I suppose, on social, if I argue with myself for a second, is that you don't own the eyeballs when you're on a social platform, right? It's for everybody, and you can get engaging with social and you get creative with social, but at the end of the day, if you're on a CMS platform, let's call it CMS as in customer magical system, which is probably what HubSpot has in that sense, because it's not just connected to your website, it's connected to a whole bunch of other things, right? You've got your marketing system, you've got your sales system. So are we saying then that a website is more than just a static site? It's got to be more than that. It's got to be fully engaging across the whole board.
Yes, I think that's exactly what we're saying. And I mean, Google has recognized this for a while too, because if you think about it, now you can write as much content and try as much SEO to your heart's content. But if your on-page user experience is terrible and people are just jumping on and off because the load time's bad, because the overall journey that they're experiencing through finding something on your website's bad, and they leave, Google's going to recognize that and push you down the rankings. So hence why user experience is great, and also it should be personalized.
But interesting enough, I mean, you're talking about Google, but Chat GPT, which we've been playing with, could be a huge game changer, especially if Microsoft puts its $10 billion that it wants to put into Chat GPT. Yeah, because they see their search engine Bing becoming a competitor of Google, and Google actually have this over at their headquarters as red alert, because then SEO would be out the door, right? Because all of a sudden, if you guys have used Chat GPT, you just type in the answer, in your case, looking for a preschool, and it will come up with one perfect solution, not 20 pages of findings.
Well, that is the ideal scenario. I think that's the utopia of where we're heading towards, and I think we'll get there. And it's not necessarily just going to be Chat GPT and Bing. I think Google will pick up the pace on that too. I think they've been doing that for years, honestly. But it is again sort of the mindset of using the platform as well that we need to change our mentality around. Like, how much has using Google really changed since it was put in place? What? I don't know, 20-something years ago.
I know it's changed its look and format, but it's basically the same thing. So let's get back to the let's call it website destination or web destination, whatever we're going to call it, rather than the word website. If we think about reviewing our websites or web destinations for this year, or we're maybe starting a new one, what if we think like a social platform? What if we think about, forget about SEO, forget about all of those things that you've been taught to make sure your website's found on Google, and think about the engagement. That's a better investment, right?
I agree. The engagement is priority 100%, and that's where you should be really investing your time and energy into. That's why I think websites, if you're doing them properly these days, cost so much, and it's not just due to like obviously having more people work on it to build the best experience for your business, and you invest obviously a lot more money into that because you want that best outcome possible. But like, I think
you're saying 10 grand is not enough for me to build a website?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that at all. It's definitely up in the tens of thousands. But the reasonings for that I don't think are unreasonable. If you think about it, COVID has really shown us that now we're going to be working from home more. Businesses needed to pivot in that regard too, and so the bricks and mortar kind of approach is somewhat distant. It's not completely gone. I think there's still a place for it, 100%. Not saying you shouldn't have one of those, but there are businesses that could ultimately just convert all their physical location to digital. It could be that you have your shop front as your main investment, and therefore if you were, say, to pay 50, 100 grand for a physical shop front, why would you not spend that same amount for your digital shop front?
That's an interesting way to look at it, because I think some people look at a website as being an add-on. Right, I've got my physical business and I just need a website and I need a brochure and I need like as an add-on, right? But I think in today's day and age, and certainly in 2023, your website is becoming the center of everything. And if you were to open a shop on a high street, you think about it, you've got the branding, you've got the signage, you've got the interior fit out, you've got the point of sale. All of that adds up, as you were saying, Gabe, to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why is a website any different from an investment perspective?
100%. And if you consider how many shops you've been in a year versus how many times you've looked at your phone, and tried to search something and find something that meets your needs, what's the ratio like? I think it's pretty much like 95% of the time you're on your phone versus going to a shop these days. If anyone disagrees with me, feel free to argue in the comments below.
So I think the other thing that I found a stat which was pretty frightening, 80% or so of small businesses in Australia don't have a CTA. on their website. So for those that don't know what I'm talking about, what is a CTA?
Well, we did talk about it a little bit before, but to give the full definition, a CTA or C2A, as some people call it.
Oh, I like that one. That's good. Is that a new term, is it?
It's a chat. It's the it's the CTA 2.0 for sure.
Oh, okay,
the new
You've heard it first here on Under the
exclusive.
Hood. C2A.
I've trademarked that under Salted Stone. Yes, no. The CTA is basically the built-in button or location you want your users to click through to solve their pain point or issue, and
so like a next step.
Like a next step to follow to keep continuing on their journey, right? Think about it. If you build a blog that talks to someone's pain point and you give them 5 top tips or whatever, maybe they want something as a takeaway or as a next step to really further like, all right, I found out what my pain points are. Now, how do I solve them?
Yeah.
Put in a CTA that basically speaks to that. Like, for example, I may look up top 10 parenting tips, come with a blog, and, come up with an ebook offer on the CTA that says, here for new dads of 2023, what you really need to know. And I'm like,
and
hell
you're
yeah,
going to look at that.
I'll
right?
download
That's
it.
100% where you're looking at.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So if we're looking at engagement first, if we're building our new web destination platform, second thing would be the buyer journey.
Yes.
Yeah. So surely, like, what do you want people to do? Like, they come to your site, they visit you for the first time. You want to get them off the homepage, so there's no bounce rates, and then you want to map out the journey, right?
Yeah, and you want to make it as engaging as possible. Like, I think you have to completely remove the whole idea of websites being just a flat, content experience. It should be like build some engaging tools and stuff that's interesting that people can engage with, or watch videos, or or a combination of those things. Maybe like a quiz, or I think a lot of websites now that are obviously got more investment in them, like Amy's website or Budding's website. You can like literally go in and just like type in key terms and find what you're after, and and continue your journey there, and they'll point you with the right CTA, and that's brilliant. I love their experiences when I use their websites, and hence why I invest my time and money in their business.
I think another two things that I think are probably missing from a lot of people's web destinations that need to be there, kind of almost like a critical point, would be chat, messaging, and mobile first.
Yes, yeah. I think a lot of people and a lot of websites that are built now these days do consider mobile, but they maybe don't consider the mobile experience, right? It's almost like they converted a desktop.
Well, it's a different experience, isn't it?
It is.
Like,
yes.
you think about it, even, your desktop is landscape and your mobile phone is portrait. So even that simplicity of scrolling down or scrolling across can be different on a mobile.
And you should also check your data and see for your current website where most of your traffic's coming from. And maybe it makes more sense to focus purely on the mobile experience versus desktop, because you might see like 95% of people who come are through their mobile. So you should definitely have that considered. And I would probably ask you this, Tony, like, in terms of that approach, with a CMS like HubSpot, with previewing how you build it and whatnot, do you think it is worth the time and energy to make sure that the people that you work with fully understand that concept of your buyer, your actual personas, and that they actually cater the experience to them each individually?
I think so, 100%. And I think, people listening in, like, I think it's what I like to call your growth department. Like, everybody, yes! I was just getting into the deep and meaningful parts.
Well, enough of that.
I like the way you ask me a question and then blow the horn.
That was my intention. I played him like a fiddle, ladies and gentlemen.
But I started, so I'll finish. So it is a growth department instead of individual silo departments all working together. And if they're all focused on that buyer persona and focused on that buyer journey, it's going to make for a seamless experience on your web.
Absolutely. And look, thanks for finishing that point, Tony. But if we've got lots of points here that we didn't get through to today. If you wanted to hear more on this particular topic, Tony's got them all in front of him there. Tons of notes. If you wanted to hear more on this topic, let us know in the comments. Or if you've got a particular question on this topic that you want us to talk to in the next version of this podcast or vidcast, let us know in the comments, and feel free to share the video, like it, and obviously subscribe so you don't miss out on hearing the very next
future
episode. What is the next episode going to be, Tony?
Interesting enough, we thought we'd tackle another interesting subject, and the title of which is "All Your Ad Platforms Are Now Irrelevant." All your ad platforms are irrelevant.
Get rid of them, scrap them, throw them out the door. We're going back to pamphlets.
And if you want to know more about that, you're going to have to tune in. Don't forget, as Gabe said, vidcast and podcast is the under the hood for this year. So please get amongst it and share and watch.
I want to give a big thanks as well again to the Hills Podcast, Video Studio, and Bella Vista Hotel for having us in this beautiful location. We we sound better than ever, don't we, Tony?
We do. It looks like a bit of a zoo for those of the, especially if you look behind me now, you can see this rather kind of zebra skin. But we will remain as we are. I don't think we need to dress up in any shape or form.
It's like a funk club for a 70s disco. I like it. I'm into this aesthetic.
I am, and we're actually in a bar area as well, so you might see us drinking exotic drinks or cocktails rather than our coffee. But we thought we'd start off.
I didn't want to tell you, Tony, but I'm actually already doing that. I'm just hiding it in this coffee cup. It's actually a pina colada.
Oh, lovely. Good luck. All right, we'll see you next time on Under the Hood.
See you guys.